Demonstrations continue around the American embassy in Tehran for the 8th day. Our correspondent says the mood of the crowd is becoming increasingly anti-American. There are more signs of official approval of what's happening. Uniformed Air Force men were brought in to join the demonstrators today. And the acting foreign minister says he's going to call in all ambassadors and ask them to press the United States to extradite the Shah to Iran. Ayatollah Khomeini has announced that he's exhausted and is cancelling engagements for a week. Without him, there seems little chance of successful negotiations. Well, with no sign of an early end to the occupation, students who took over the embassy and its staff last Sunday have been showing their film of how they did it. The demonstration began with a march past the embassy, but then some of the students started to climb over the gates. The occupiers surrounded the main embassy building and sometime later began parading their hostages blindfolded. The filming continued throughout the week and eventually it shows the hostages talking to the diplomats who visited them yesterday.
If there's anything with your health here?
I think I have an infection in this eye.
Yeah. Did that morning came the doctor here? Did you see the doctor?
Yes, but I didn't know it was the doctor till he was on his way out.
Okay, I guess they have got your medicament. I will ask later. Excuse me. What's this book about?
What is it about?
Yes.
It's about post-war England.
Mrs. Thatcher has become the target of another concerted attack by the Soviet press. Using their strongest language since she became Prime Minister in May, the leading official newspapers have described Conservative policy towards China as dangerous and irresponsible. The millions who died in 2 world wars and in other conflicts have been remembered today in ceremonies at war memorials in towns and villages all over the country. In London, the Queen led the nation's mourning at the Remembrance Day service at the Cenotaph. Government, opposition and Commonwealth representatives were also present. The Queen Mother and Princess Anne watched from a balcony of the old Home Office building. Mrs. Thatcher laid her first wreath as Prime Minister, and the ceremony ended with a march past by hundreds of ex-servicemen and women. The former Rhodesian Prime Minister Ian Smith is back in Salisbury from the London talks. He's urged the white community to prepare for the possible arrival of nationalist guerrilla leaders. In London, demonstrators supporting the Patriotic Front have been on the march. It was the 14th anniversary of Rhodesia's declaration of UDI, and not a date the Zimbabwe Emergency Campaign were prepared to forget. They organised the march to protest at Britain's decision not to renew sanctions. And speakers at the rally in Trafalgar Square claimed that the British government were trying to sabotage chances of a genuine settlement. In Canada, more than 20,000 people have been evacuated from a suburb of Toronto after a train carrying chemicals caught fire and exploded during a derailment. A huge cloud of poisonous chlorine gas, hundreds of feet high, is hanging over the area, and firefighters say other chemicals had seeped from ruptured wagons. Among the evacuees were 1,000 patients from a nearby hospital. Police are considering extending the boundaries of the evacuation area from 3 to 20 square miles. There are no reports of any injuries. Well, here at home there's been a more controlled explosion. An old gas holder had to make way for progress. At about 300 feet it was the largest in the United Kingdom, but the demolition experts arrived at Ford's Dagenham works to change all that. Using the latest explosive techniques, they planned to bring nearly 2,000 tons of steel to the ground. The charges were placed, the traffic stopped, and the demolition men retired.
Yeah, that's the last one from 66.
Well, it's time that we went to, but a little less spectacularly. That's it from us. Good night.